Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Another beautiful day here out camping. Took this trip, of course. If you saw yesterday's vlog, then you know definitely we were enjoying some time away, and it gave me time to reflect on my previous job employment. Now, I know you all say, well, you haven't been working there for months. Absolutely. But often it takes you some time to recover and kind of get over that. And, sitting down here camping and, walking through the woods, relaxing, hanging out in the camper and spending time with the wife and a couple of kids, and that gives me time to reflect on a lot of things. And a lot of things still kind of agitate a little bit. Of course, the old job, the corporate job, how little your boss really cares. How little. And not that, we'll all get over it. There's a million jobs. You get laid off, you get fired, you move on. But when you have as much time vested in some of these careers and jobs, and they make you feel like family. See, that's the biggest thing that I consider a bit of a joke, if we're being honest, is the idea that they try to portray as family. They try to, you go out for dinners, you do these team building exercises, you have fun, the idea is to treat everybody like family. They try to portray that, they try to say that. And the more you hear that, the more you start to believe it. And the worst part is, first of all, look how gorgeous it is out here. Pretty early right now. I think it's about 8:30 right now, 8:30 in the morning. Pretty chilly. Look at the mountain views. Absolutely gorgeous. This is, I believe, the Bow River. So right now, if any of you are kind of curious, maybe drop a line. I'll see if I can answer it in the comments. But the campground that I'm in right now, I'd like to see if anybody here can guess where I'm actually at and where we're camping. But beyond that, your corporate space, the boss, the manager, the supervisor, whoever that is that was leading you or is leading you, is also leading you to believe that you're in an environment that they actually care. They talk about, they put on that big smiling face, make you feel nice and warm and fuzzy, make you feel like you're at home. They take you out for lunch sometimes, and all those things make you feel like you're part of the team or the family. But as time goes on, you realize, I was the unwanted sheep. I was the third-legged dog, if you will, or at least that's the way it felt. Sorry, pardon the pun. But you know what? That's the way it starts to feel when you're on the outs. For a while there, you feel like you're part of this family, part of the team. And then when you know pretty quickly when you're not considered part of that family or part of that team anymore. And that's exactly the feeling I was starting to get there, close to the end. And as a result of that, it's just kind of is what it is. You start getting these feelings of isolation, exclusion, and then you know that you're not in a place that is great. And that's where the last 4 or 5 years really started to decline for me. I really started to feel like I was no longer wanted, was no longer part of the team. And while I was trying to, manage those feelings and try to work through all of that and try to, just get through my day-to-day job, because ultimately you're just trading time for money. And what I realized is anybody who believes that your job is anything more than trading time for money is absolutely mistaken. And so because of that, I would strongly suggest you just make sure you got to keep working. We all have to pay the bills. But the idea behind it is just to make sure that you prioritize your life, your health, and never forget the priorities. Never forget the real importance, your kids, your wife, spouse, husband, and of course, the things that just matter to you, taking care of yourself. Forget about burning candles on both ends, because they don't give it back to you in the end, and none of them actually care, if we're being quite frank. Because what I realized after the fact was, it's interesting because, I was like, oh, no big secret, no big shocker, and lots of us have those moments. Look at that mountain up there. Isn't that absolutely incredible? Look at that. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous up there? Wow. Beautiful, beautiful. But, anywho, moving right along, the more time I had to reflect and sit around and think about some of these things that have been going on in the last 6 months, the more that it all starts to kind of just make sense to me. The treatment, and of course, just where I fit in the big cog. And clearly, I didn't have clearly it wasn't really something that they saw me as value add after a while. So, and that's okay. There gets to be a point where, ageism is real. And I think whether you're of age and they see you as being too costly, or your skill sets bring in too much money and they start swapping you out for somebody cheaper, that's okay. That's business. That's how it works. Get while the getting's good. But if you cruise along through life thinking that, you've actually got a supervisor, a manager, a boss who actually really cares, I would say I've had jobs where they do. I've had jobs where, when you work for these small companies and it becomes more of a ma and pa shop, and it can become an environment where it is a smaller knit group and people are more personable. I know people very close to my circle that live in that space, that have jobs. They're a very small group and they are a lot more like family. But don't kid yourself thinking any kind of corporate or big job, we're all just numbers. And so it's interesting, after I got through this, it's funny. I was talking to another buddy of mine who also left a corporate career. We went out for lunch the other day, and it's quite humorous because I mentioned, I said, what's interesting? After I left, they say it's only about, it's not personal. It's none of that. It's just business. It's just numbers. They're trying to meet quotas and criteria. And I think that is largely true, but when the axe drops from HR or somebody from above says, look, we've got to trim X amount off the top or the bottom or the middle, then your number makes the hat, and clearly my number made the hat. You would think that these people that thought or said or acted or quoted and gave you the big smile along the way, you'd think those people would maybe reach out and say after the fact, pick up the phone. Hey, Mark, so sorry about that. Hope you're doing fine. Hope everything's good. Because, we were working in relatively small work groups, and, you would think at some level that somebody from leadership would reach out, but they don't. And that's okay, right? That's okay. I actually wasn't expecting or anticipating it. And I think if you do, I think you're probably going to be grossly mistaken. But the idea of anticipating that somebody who lets you go did it only because the numbers, and that they actually do care. Let me tell you right now, they don't care. Because if they did, even at the human aspect, the human side of this, you would think that they'd reach out and say, look, after Mark, you know what? How are things going? Sorry we had to do that. And I get it. Sometimes there's that awkward thing too and all of that. But you'd think after working in a small work group, in a small, part of a big organization, that, maybe they'd kind of look past it and say at some level, hey, what's going on? But there's none of that. And that's okay. Like I said, I didn't actually anticipate it. But it's just another reminder, which is entirely fine, that we are in fact just a number. We're just a number, and that they really didn't care all that much. If they did, somebody would have reached out. But, as a consolation, I had numerous people that I actually worked with that were like team members and people in my group, my immediate work group, that were, part of my sphere of influence, if you will, that had reached out. I had heard from some friends, some of them, colleagues, because I think anybody who assumes that people at work are friends, I think you'll probably be in for a little bit of a surprise at some point, because most of these people are there putting on a smile because they're sort of paid to do that. Ooh, I'm seeing like bear claws on some of these trees. There's definitely some wildlife. We were warned that There's a very active wildlife presence here right now, and it shouldn't be of a big surprise. And when they say that cougars and bears are the big ones, wolves and coyotes are the other ones. But you know, time went on, 6 months has gone by, and I haven't heard from really anybody above me, supervisors or otherwise, managers and that. And this buddy I went out to lunch with, he kind of laughed and snickered because he said the same thing. He's like, what? Nobody reached out to you? Nobody even phoned to see how you're doing? And here's a guy also coming from kind of that corporate space that kind of understands that there are some etiquette pieces that at least maybe you don't care all that much, but just to reach out to see how somebody's doing. But there was none of that. So just what you realize very quickly after you go through a process like this, that these people don't care. They don't. Again, that's fine because I have everybody I need at home. But this is just the fact and reality that the company doesn't care really. No. And neither does your boss. They say you're part of the family and they say all these things when things are good. When things aren't so good, they're not part of the family. You're not part of the family. And it's all business and nobody really gives two hoots. So at the end of the day, do what you got to do. Trade your time for money because we all have to make money and we all have to put a roof over our heads and we all have to eat and survive and buy money and earn money to do the things that we really want to do. Because if you go into work because you think that's a place you need to be or you're really enjoying it, I think that's a mixed up, a little bit of a flip-flop priority list there, because some people do get energized by their work. I understand the pace, the challenges and all of that aspect. It can be like a game and it can be kind of interesting. It's what fires you up, and it did for me early in my career too. But it gets a point where you realize, they're pulling more out of you, especially if you're on a salary. They're pulling more out of you than you're getting back in return. And of course, as I've said, none of them really care. They just push you harder and, more with less, and that whole idea. So again, I just go for this nice little walk, peaceful walk here in the forest. It is absolutely gorgeous, beautiful out here. And my hand is getting cold because it is cold out here. You can almost see my breath. I'd say it's about plus 5 degrees Celsius right now. It's a little chilly. But anyway, please do drop a line. And I'd like to hear any ideas where I might be camping here right now. And I think this will be it for the year because it is getting cold. And we saw some snow here fall yesterday, although today doesn't feel quite as rough. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.